Que es, hay que buscar una solución. Si el adicto no quiere dejar entonces la adicción, pues hacer como un centro en el cual esos adictos puedan ir ahí y con jeringuillas nuevas y con su alcohol, sus cosas, curarse, botar la jeringuilla, botar todo y salir limpio para la calle. Así evitamos también los arrestos por posesiones de drogas en la calle y que evitamos que la gente caiga más preso por ese problema.
Well, for me as a young person, it was initially my bedroom. That was probably the safest place I've ever injected. Honestly, it was home. But as my addiction progressed, of course, it led me to much less safer environments.
This event happened, actually it was a nice day, and I was with a friend of mine who hasn't been around for a while. And we copped a few bags of dope, and I said to him, I said, listen, dude, you haven't done nothing for a while, so, just do freaking, a test shot and see what's going to happen before you want to, just go what you usually do. Of course, he wasn't trying to understand. He wasn't going for that one. So we walked a couple of blocks. We got into a park where people usually go and get off at.
Earlier in my use, it would be good if you could find a bathroom someplace warm with lighting and you could sit down on a flat surface and use the sink in the bathroom to get everything together. That was a good day. Quite often it was just in the car. We'd find someplace that we could park the car and just shoot up. And car washes was a common place, parking lots. But sometimes that wasn't a choice. I once shot up while driving down the interstate using the seatbelt to tie myself off and cruise control. Because you'll shoot up wherever you have to.
I mixed up one bag for him. He did it. And he was okay, And then he looked at me, he's like, can you please just mix up another bag for me? I just want to do another bag. And I looked at him, I was like, are you sure you really want to do that? My phone rang, and I was on the phone, and I'm talking on the phone, and when I turned back around, he was on the ground.
There's many times in my life where I'd gone out and just driven someplace because I couldn't necessarily get high at my house, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. I couldn't continue to go to the same McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts that we'd go to every single time because they start to identify who you are and what you're doing and they don't want you there. So I would just drive off someplace in the middle of nowhere where nobody's gonna find me if I overdose. And I think that's probably pretty common.
So harm reduction is an approach that many of us in the substance use field take to working with people who are using drugs. And it overall reflects an approach that seeks to meet the person where they're at, to find out what's going on with that person, and to identify different strategies or different approaches, different steps they can take to protect their own health and reduce their risk of both social and health consequences from the drug use.
We're right here now on 124th Street, Lexington Avenue. This is one of the parks where most of our individuals that receive our services come and inject because they don't have a safe place to inject. Most of the individuals are homeless. So this is like one of the parks that we come into and look for dirty syringes that may be left over from people that are being used. So as you can see, I'm sitting here on this bench. And to put myself in the place of individuals that's using, I'm sitting here using, but this is not, even though it's a little secluded off the main street, there's still a lot of traffic that comes through here. And for me to sit here and to take a chance to inject, I could be interrupted, the police could come by, the kids could be coming into the park, residency of these buildings may be walking by, and it's not a good look. You know what I'm saying? It's not safe.
Public injection is a public health issue, both for the injector as well for the community that the injector lives in. For the injector, it could mean botched injection, which could mean soft tissue injury. It could mean discarded syringes in a place where you wouldn't want to see discarded syringes. So it's also an issue for the community around there. It could mean that the injector has an overdose and there's no one there to respond. So it's issue upon issue tied into public injection.
I wasn't always homeless, but I am now. My godfather died about a year and a half ago. And so since then, yeah, definitely I have nowhere to, well, now I use vocal, but before that, I had nowhere to go. You know, hallways, the park, streets, bathrooms, whatever you could find.
It's very hard to focus on keeping yourself safe and reducing consequences of drug use, whether it's reducing your drug use or making sure you're using in the safest possible way when you don't have a safe or stable place to live.
After a while, after you're addicted for a long time, since we're not professional doctors, we're not nurses, a lot of these guys, they don't know how to shoot up properly. Like myself, I didn't know how to shoot up properly, so I was getting a lot of abscesses. I was hitting nerves, I was hitting tendons, and I didn't understand because I was not educated. I didn't understand what was going on.
I've had, tons of, issues, from, injections. I've gotten, endocarditis. I got osteomyelitis, and everything, all from injection. And 90% of that would have been alleviated, would have been avoidable if I was able to, if I had access to, cleaner materials.
It's not like when they lock you up, they're like, oh, well, you were just doing that because you had nowhere else to go. It's an easy mark besides, you're an easy target.
They don't want to expose their family or their kids to that, so they end up going the street where they feel that, if they go maybe in an abandoned building, nobody in their right mind is going to go sleep in an abandoned building, or go shoot up in an abandoned building. So they figure they go in there, nobody's going to see them, saying they're not going to be around the people that probably know their kids or their parents or whatever, and they get that little moment of privacy there to do that. Even though they might be afraid, scared that somebody might go in there and rob them or hurt them, I know they don't feel safe in there, because I know I didn't feel safe.
I think you have public injection wherever you have injectors. It's, again, folks don't choose to be public injectors. I think that if they had a place to go where they wouldn't be harassed by police or open to public view, they would do that.
Well, I'm originally from Long Island. I moved up to Greene County when I was pretty young. Went to high school in Greenville. Real small town, country living. Not a whole lot to do. Everyone just kind of partying and hanging out. It was, a fun place to grow up, but probably not, the best place for me, because it's where I started a lot of my partying. I started getting into prescription painkillers when I lived out there. Pretty much all the work is like physical labor kind of stuff, so, you're just working hard, you just kind of want to relax afterwards, eat a couple of painkillers, it's just kind of what everyone was doing. Then kind of before we knew it, heroin kind of exploded.
check out for stuff here because there's stuff, there's caps and stuff. You know, you like to try and get everything off the ground, so keep it as clean as possible. Yeah, so this space, I mean, it's very close to where the van is. And people literally go from the van to here to shoot up. I mean, we're about maybe 20 feet from the van, if that. And, you know, at certain periods of time during the summer here, for instance, this has been full of syringes back here. Then it suddenly gets quiet and then moves over to the other side of the van. So this area around here, there is usually people are using right here.
Outside of New York City, some of the issues are the same for a lot of our participants and the people that we serve. And then there are some things that are unique in that, you know, we serve large geographic areas here. So we have urban centers, you know, like Albany, Schenectady, Troy, and then they're surrounded by suburban and then very rural areas. And so the patterns of use and the patterns of folks traveling tend to be maybe a little different in that if you live in one of those rural areas, you need a vehicle in order to get into access services, into access harm reduction, into certainly to find and purchase drugs.
The 3 or 4 people who, you know, we were all real close and kind of looked out for each other, and, you know, we would take the trips to go pick up together and, you know, to use together. You know, go pick up and pull into some dark alley maybe, you know, and shoot up and kind of try to hide while you're doing it. Sometimes while you're driving down the road, you know, shooting up, or, you know, maybe even try to find some bathroom somewhere, you know.
Fast food restaurants and public restrooms are places where people will use, but also we have people who inject in the woods, and, you know, that's not just in the woods in rural areas, that's the woods right off of main drags in the urban setting.
It was crazy. You know, we'd be going out in the woods to use. I mean, I remember, you know, not having water or anything and just using like creek water to, you know, shoot up with, you know, not knowing what the heck is in it. You know, we used to joke about getting like beaver fever or something, you know, shooting up with the creek water. Yeah.
So some of our people that are living in an area like this, if you wanted to sort of avoid attention or law enforcement, or if you didn't have a safe place to inject on your own, you know, you can duck into an area like this. Where obviously at least you'll be out of view, but, you know, again, there's a mouse running around down here. There's a bunch of litter. Again, not a great environment for safe injection, especially if you're sort of hurrying and worrying about attracting attention to yourself.
Fear, lots of fear, panic even to finish, of course, injecting and then to get out of there as soon as you can. And I mean, that fear is, I've been in situations numerous times where we're in a moving vehicle and the people in the car are getting high, they're shooting up because it's safest to be on the move and to not get caught, but it's really the most dangerous.
You know, every once in a while someone would go to the pharmacy and get a pack of needles that we would share, and we'd use them until they were jagged and rusty. And I mean, I remember having bruises just up and down my arms, you know, from using the same needles over and over, and you'd have to twist and turn it to get it in, and, you know, it's just awful. It was awful. And like, you know, you hear about sharing needles, how, you know, you can get Hep C and this and that, but I mean, we never heard about how